Chapter 71. 71. Frustrated as the redwood continued to be filled with chattering and lively atmosphere. At one table situated near the window, the atmosphere was quite different. So you've been toying with me all along, huh? Su Feng fixed his glasses, creating a sharp glint in reflection as he questioned Zhao Kai. Not all. I don't overthink much like you do, and I really came in here to enjoy some food. But I thought you would want some reasons along the way to follow through. Zhao Kai responded, proclaiming his innocence. You should know I really don't want to involve myself with complicated things, especially when it's a game. But for you, I did some investigation and research so that I won't become a burden. You definitely wanted my assistance, seeing how you tried to convince and persuade me previously to drop the school competition and join you. Smiling briefly, Su Feng nearly forgot Zhao Kai's intelligence was no less than his, albeit with less usage. He got the brain, but he doesn't want to use it much, mainly because he wanted a carefree life. However, just because he didn't want to use it and remain carefree doesn't mean others would let him be. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lost contact with him in the future. Back then, I was occupied by the Reaver Guild, so I couldn't assist you. But not this time. Su Feng exclaimed inwardly, clearly enraged about what happened to Zhao Kai. Well, I'm glad you picked up on that, and I just treat it as a repayment for punching you in the face. Su Feng calmly said, calling the staff from earlier and ordering the dishes that Zhao Kai mentioned, plus extra. Oh, Brother Feng, you really know how to treat a fellow brother. Zhao Kai laughed heartily. But there's too much food. Even if this is a game, there's a limit to how much I can eat. I was so damn full previously by stuffing myself too much. He scratched his head, seemingly embarrassed by the ordeal. Imagine nearly killing himself because he overeats? That was definitely an embarrassing event and not something he would wish to divulge. Shadowblade, you to do some research, but not enough. You have an inventory, and you can store the food there without worrying about it rotting. Su Feng explained. Right, we have our inventory slot. How could I forget about it when I had the letter stored there? Zhao Kai clasped his hands, acting as if he had been enlightened. Su Feng was speechless at the reaction. One moment, he was like an expert and intelligent folk, but the next moment, he turned into a fool-like person. Sigh. I need to learn how to interact with Zhao Kai in the future. He made a mental note to himself. He was afraid of losing his composure and mannerisms if he continued to interact with him in such a way. As the two patiently waited for the food to arrive, they soon began to listen in on the conversation of other players. Hey, can I borrow some copper coins from you? What? Didn't you ask me that a while ago? Do I look like a bank to you? Oh, come on. It'll return double when I make it big. The Silver Wind Guild is actively recruiting, but they are based in Riverwood Town. Damn, you mean that guild who had just completed a hell mode difficulty? I thought they were in some other global region and not around us. Exactly why I need the funds necessary for my travel. This is a golden opportunity to join a rising guild. The players were discussing the Silver Wind Guild recruitment and their excitement in wanting to be a part of the elite guild. After all, anyone who had managed to complete the hell mode difficulty dungeon at this stage when no one else was able to even clear easy mode spoke volumes of the achievement. It's this Silver Wind Guild topic again. I kept hearing them that I'm annoyed by now. Zhao Kai shook his head and said, seemingly disappointed by the discussion he was eavesdropping on. It's not a surprise that this kind of event would garner tons of attention everywhere. Su Feng casually said, acting as if he wasn't an involved party. TSK, it's just some first clear achievement and extra advanced rewards that might give them a head start when compared to others. It's not that big of a deal. Games are meant to be fun, but games are also meant to be competitive. Otherwise, why would anyone want to level up and grind for equipment? I guess it just depends on the player's mindset. Zhao Kai knitted his brows. Anyway, there's no point in listening to the conversation further. Let's talk about you. Did you choose a gunner class? Su Feng smiled, shifting the conversation topic. He was not a bit interested in the recruitment process of the Silver Wind Guild, especially when two people had already attempted to poach him. Others might have wished for such an opportunity, but not him. Why should he care about such an achievement when he could easily obtain them himself? A few seconds went by, and Zhao Kai confessed, "I'm not a gunner." Stunned, Su Feng raised an eyebrow as he inspected him again. How are you not a gunner when you only have guns? Well, aside from guns, I can also equip another thing, but I found it too unsightly to look at. He smiled sheepishly. Although his explanation was subtle, with Su Feng's insight, how could he not comprehend the meaning? There was only one other class that used guns and could equip one more thing in the divine world. And that was the Gun Knight class. Zhao Kai, you are really trying to frustrate me to death here, aren't you? Su Feng said in an exhausted tone. You choose the name Shadowblade, but you use a gun as a weapon. Not only that, you chose a Gun Knight class, but refused to equip the shield that gives you extra attributes simply because its appearance is not to your liking. Just what are you even doing here then? Chapter 72. 72. Relax a bit being called out in the open. Zhao Kai remained calm and collected, almost as if he was unaffected by the words. However, his outer appearance could not fool the keen eyes of Su Feng. All right, it's your style, so I can't say much. But just know that you're making your life difficult. Su Feng ultimately sighed and said, at the end of the day, it was his character and his freedom, so he shouldn't attempt to intrude upon it. Thank you, Brother Feng. Zhao Kai smiled widely, clearly appreciative of Su Feng for knowing the boundary and respecting his decision. Maybe it was because both of them knew each other's personality well and understood when to stop, which helped enable their lasting friendship. Do you want any advice on how to build the character, since you're going on such an unorthodox path? Su Feng asked, seemingly trying to help his buddy out. Additionally, he realized once again the future had been altered due to the butterfly effect. He was positive of Zhao Kai being a gunner not just because of the equipment he saw, but because of the past timeline of him being a gunner. However, it became quite clear that the timeline was now starting to change, and his knowledge advantage was decreasing slowly. Despite that, Su Feng wasn't bothered or worried about losing such an advantage. The path he walked on was never about relying on some future knowledge advantage, but based on his intuition, research, and strategy. Sure, knowing some advanced information is beneficial, but one must also know how to utilize it to their advantage. That was the key point, and he would be foolish to fail in the utilization. If perhaps some of the key knowledge elements have been altered due to the butterfly effect, then he would simply adapt to the new changes and make alterations to his plan. Whatever. I trust you, Feng. I only started to play the divine world because of you anyway. Just don't make me equip the shield that is heavy and unsightly. Zhao Kai readily responded, adding some of his input as well if Su Feng wanted to assist him. Give me some days to ponder over it, and it's not like unequipping the shield is a bad thing. At the very least, your appearance would fool others into believing you're a gunner when in reality, you're a gun knight who is capable of being a tank. Su Feng calmly said, reassuring him that it wasn't overly terrible. Sometime later, the staff returned with a plate full of dishes, and they placed them on the table in an orderly fashion. Please enjoy your food, the staff said with a smile. Finally, this is the highlight of the divine world. Their food is just otherworldly and almost makes you feel like you will undergo nirvana. Zhao Kai exclaimed, his mouth nearly drooling at the mere sight of the glistening dishes. Undergo nirvana? Su Feng raised an eyebrow. You're not trying to tell me that you would experience your clothes being burst or ripped open with a single bite of the food, right? That only happens in nonsensical gourmet fantasy or fan service moments. TSK, you don't know about that, Feng. Trust me, when the food is that good and melts in your tongue, that feeling is real, albeit minus the clothes being shredded. Zhao Kai rolled his eyes, grabbing a fork as he dug in on the spaghetti bolognese. A slurping sound was created as Zhao Kai enjoyed the spaghetti to his heart's content. Smiling softly, Su Feng dug in on his spaghetti as well, ensuring to savor every bit of the flavor. This order alone cost him 1 silver coin and 10 copper coins, mainly because it provided an extremely good buff. Agility enhancement improves movement speed and attack speed by 15%. Health regeneration restores 5% of maximum health every 10 seconds. Mana regeneration restores 5% of maximum mana every 10 seconds. Stamina recovery reduces stamina consumption by 20%. Critical hit rate increase raises critical hit chance by 5%. All these buffs lasted for an hour, which was necessary when treading the upcoming Verdant Valley. It was also precisely because of the necessity that Su Feng agreed to indulge Zhao Kai in his foodie interest. No need to force yourself to eat everything. If you can't finish them, then just store them in your inventory for later. Su Feng warned, having witnessed Zhao Kai's antics of grabbing so many different foods and stuffing them in his mouth. If he didn't know any better, then he would have mistaken him for a beggar who had been starved for days. Luckily, the other players were too immersed in their own conversation, and their table location was quite inconspicuous as well for others to notice them. Otherwise, Su Feng might really ask for a second table and switch his seat. Time slowly passed by, and Zhao Kai finally felt his stomach bulge a bit. Ah, I swear this isn't a game, but another way to fulfill your hunger. He exclaimed in bliss, rubbing his tummy as if he was some old man. Unbelievable. You should join some food-eating contest. Su Feng sighed, unable to fathom how he was able to consume so much food. Just the spaghetti bolognese alone had filled his stomach already, and he could barely eat a few barbecue ribs. After all, it would be a lie if he wasn't tempted by the aroma and fragrance emitted from the tenderized ribs. As Su Feng paid for the food, he felt a bit of heartache for losing his hard-earned money. He'll make sure to exploit others thrice for this expenditure. He vowed silently, wondering if Harold Fist was in need of information or items. That person had been played like a fiddle, so by throwing some more juicy bait out for him, he could easily earn big money. Anyway, let's get this show on the road. Just this delay has caused us quite a bit of time. Su Feng stood up and said, getting ready to leave the inn. What's the rush, Feng? Zhao Kai scratched his head. You really became weird. You're constantly rushing now, almost as if you were in a state of urgency. Just relax a little bit and take a deep breath. Chapter 73. Do you trust me? With Zhao Kai's seemingly lax attitude, Su Feng wanted to scold him at first, but halted himself in time. Zhao Kai doesn't know his sense of urgency stemmed from his years of expertise, so even if he attempted to explain these, he might not get it. Taking a deep breath as he suggested, Su Feng smiled softly. Well, I suppose we should relax a bit when it comes to food as well. The menu earlier had a lot of good food, but I guess we can wait a long time till we can try other new food. He calmly said, hitting right at his weak spot. Sure enough, Zhao Kai's attitude and behavior seemed to have taken a 180-degree turn as he stood up. What are we still doing here, Feng? We have a mission to do, he exclaimed, seemingly in a hurry. Huh? But didn't you just tell me to relax a bit and take a deep breath? Screw that. What relaxation? There's no time for relaxation. Ha. I'm glad we're on the same page then. Laughing heartily, the two smoothly exited the inn as they made their way to Verdant Valley. As they walked near the streets, the two of them suddenly took a right turn, entering a discreet hallway. All right, why don't you peep reveal yourself already? Zhao Kai suddenly said, pulling out his guns. However, a minute had gone by, and there was no movement at all. Wow, they got scared by you, Shadowblade. Your words must have frozen them as they log out to cry to their mommy. Su Feng snickered coldly. Huh, their mommy? That's impossible. After all, they're busy cooking in my house and waiting for me to please them. Zhao Kai exclaimed in shock. Are you sure they're cooking in your house and not mine? Of course, I just sent one of them to heaven earlier. Die bastards. Just as the two were smack-talking, an unfamiliar voice echoed through the discreet hallway, followed by a barrage of spells. Whoa, they really fell for the oldest taunt in the book. Amused, Zhao Kai easily dodged the incoming spells, clearly expecting a sneak attack. As for Su Feng, he merely buffed himself and tanked the spells on purpose, prompting his health point bar to decrease slightly. Why didn't you dodge? Confused, Zhao Kai didn't know why his buddy didn't just dodge. Both of them already knew they were being targeted back at the inn. Hence, they acted rowdy and ignorant to bait them out while communicating through private messages. Therefore, in theory, Su Feng should have been able to avoid the attack, especially when he was the first one to sense something was amiss. Put away your guns, Shadowblade, Su Feng instructed. We are law-abiding people after all. Did you eat the wrong food? Zhao Kai quickly corrected himself before he finished his question. No, that can't be when we had the same thing. He muttered, wondering why Su Feng would want him to withdraw his weapon. Despite his confusion, he listened and withdrew his guns, making them both vulnerable. "Oh, it's good that you know to surrender. Now cough up all your money," one of the people among the group of ambushers announced. Alas, his presence seemed non-existent to Su Feng and Zhao Kai as they both ignored him and immersed themselves in their conversation. "Look at the trouble you bring, Shadowblade, ordering that much expensive food and allowing others to know about our wealth." Su Feng chided him. "Oh, come on. Clearly it's their fault for being greedy. How could it be blamed on me?" Zhao Kai responded, defending himself. "You're right. Greedy people would target us regardless if we have wealth or not." Nodding his head, Su Feng found his logic reasonable. "Have the two of you fooled enough already?" Enraged, the group of ambushers was infuriated by their lack of acknowledgement toward them. "Cough up all your money. Otherwise, don't expect to leave this town unharmed," they demanded coldly. Seeing the situation turning grim by the seconds, Zhao Kai whispered somewhat anxiously, "Hey Feng, are we really not going to retaliate? Rest assured, we won't even need to lift a finger. Just continue to act nonchalant and stall for time." "Can we even stall any longer?" Look at them holding their weapons menacingly. "Do you trust me?" "Of course I do." "Then that's all that matters." Su Feng smirked, glancing at the bunch of ambushers. "Boss, let's just kill them and rob them. Although the loot would be minimized, we can still get a ton seeing how rich they are." One of them was impatient and suggested killing them outright. After all, players in the Divine World who died would have their items dropped, and depending on their luck, they could either lose their valuable items or invaluable items. "Feng, please tell me that these ambushers aren't being for real. Are they really trying to kill us in the town? Don't they know the consequences?" Zhao Kai asked. "When people are blinded by greed temporarily, they forego all consequences." Su Feng explained, having witnessed this type of scene multiple times. To a logical person, they might be saying how retarded their actions were. But to these people who are blinded, they think it was the best course of action. With these two constantly talking down on the ambushers, they finally had enough as they advanced forward, launching deadly attacks. Zhao Kai, on instinct, wanted to defend and retaliate, but Su Feng held him by the shoulder and dragged him back. He then shook his head, reminding him to not make a move while he calmly watched the attack fiercely launching at them. Just when they were a few millimeters away from being hit, the attacks were deflected and Zhao Kai mistakenly thought Su Feng made a move. However, he quickly came to realize it wasn't Su Feng as numerous noises echoed through the hallway. "How dare you openly attack in Oakwood Town?" The thunderous voice, followed by a rumbling of footsteps, astonished both Zhao Kai and the ambushers. Only Su Feng was carefree, almost as if he expected the outcome. And this is why one must study the geography of their location. He exclaimed inwardly. Chapter 74. Robbers, how did the NPC guards arrive so quickly? One of the ambushers was astonished. "Fuck, we were played by them." Another one was more clever and realized they had fallen into a deeper trap than they initially thought. "That's right, this hallway looks discreet on the surface, but it's secretly connected to the NPC's training ground. Thanks to you dummies making such loud noises, it attracted them over here." Su Feng suddenly exclaimed, letting these ambushers know what was up. "Oh, so that's why you told me to stay put." Zhao Kai clasped his hands, having realized Su Feng's terrifying insight. Even when baiting out the enemy, he had calculated the strategic location to confront them. At first, he thought that Su Feng merely wanted to find a discreet place to finish the enemies tracking them. Who would have thought Su Feng had another plan in mind, and one that doesn't involve moving a muscle? "You have my like, Brother Feng." Zhao Kai gave him a thumbs up in respect and admiration. Su Feng rolled his eyes at his response, taking a step forward to the NPC guards. When the NPC guard noticed his approach, he was cautious initially, but his face turned solemn upon detecting something. "Barrow," before the NPC guard could call out his noble status, Su Feng stopped him. "Hello, guards, these people just attempted to rob me and even harm me in the process. How do you think we should handle it?" Su Feng greeted him and proceeded to explain the situation. The moment Su Feng finished his statement, the NPC guard's eyes turned cold. Zhao Kai and the ambushers might not know the current status of Su Feng, but these NPCs were different. With a bit of scrutiny, they could easily detect the barren status Su Feng held. Now that he was informed, some lowly adventurers had the nerve to openly initiate an attack within the town. But their target was also a baron, whose jurisdiction was directly under the Etheria Empire. The matter had turned serious. Quickly detain these criminals, the NPC guard ordered sternly. Upon hearing that, some of these ambushers naturally wanted to retaliate, with some even trying to flee the scene. However, their efforts were futile. In front of these powerful NPC guards, the players were no different than ants. Thus, within a few minutes, all the ambushers, totaling 5 people, were captured and detained. If it was the normal protocol, these players would all be sent to jail for 3 days in real time before being released. Unfortunately for these unlucky ambushers, of all the people they had to target, they had to choose the one player who currently held a prestigious noble status. Thus, the normal protocol does not apply to them. Sir, the criminals have all been detained. What do you wish to do? The NPC guard asked, cleverly avoiding to call his noble status. Their intelligence was shown very subtly, but Su Feng was able to detect it and realize the NPCs are slowly able to act very human-like. To even understand his intention and avoid calling his status made him somewhat anxious. It seems like I need to act fast, he thought to himself, realizing the divine world was changing at a rapid rate. My friend and I were visiting Oakwood Town due to its scenery and reputation. Alas, it was unfortunate that we met with such an incident. Su Feng sighed in a bitter tone. We will definitely increase the security here. The NPC guard turned rigid and said solemnly, clearly afraid of Su Feng leaving the town with a bad memory. It would be over for their town if Su Feng went ahead and complained to the upper management that he was ambushed and attacked right under their nose. I know, and I trust in you. Su Feng patted the NPC guard and slowly guided him to the corner. I don't want to make a big deal out of this, and neither do you. Let me take all of their possessions, and you throw them in jail for a few weeks, and I'll pretend nothing happened. He whispered softly. The NPC guard was stunned initially, but upon weighing the pros and cons, he felt this wasn't so bad. After all, they wouldn't be punished and the matter would be resolved, given Su Feng had already claimed he would pretend nothing happened. A noble's words were still convincing, and he doubted a noble would go back on their words. Only that, and no more? The NPC guard asked, seemingly still suspicious of how easy the resolution would be. Nodding his head, Su Feng explained, I like Oakwood Town, and I don't want a few lowly adventurers to dampen the town's reputation. Aside, you rescued me in time before any real danger occurred, so I don't want you to be punished either. Thanks to his convincing words, the NPC guard readily agreed with his suggestion, having ordered the guards to strip the ambushers of their entire property. The only thing left on them were the clothes to avoid having them exposed. No, you can't do this to me. This isn't how it works. Yeah, just throw us to jail. Why are you taking away our items and money? This is definitely a bug. I want to make a complaint. Agitated, the ambushers were livid upon seeing their entire belongings stripped from them. Worse, they saw how cozy the guards were to Su Feng, especially when they watched how their possessions were given to him right afterward. It was only at this moment that they truly understood one thing. The role of a robber was never them, but these two despicable men who had lured them into the discreet hallway. How dare you make a fool out of me? I recognize your faces, and I'll ensure you won't see the daylight once I return. One of the ambushers threatened as they were dragged away by the guards, most likely going to the jail cell. Hey, recognize my face? You all will be detained for a few weeks in real time, and you can't even access most of the features when jailed. By the time you come out, the world has already changed. Su Feng sneered inwardly. Chapter 75. Robbed as the cries and angry voices of the ambushers slowly dissipated from the discreet hallway, the situation could have been said to be resolved. Is there anything else you need, sir? The NPC guard asked, clearly still a bit worried that Su Feng might be displeased. No need. You've already done more than enough. Su Feng smiled. holding a sack of pouches filled with money. It was no wonder these ambushers were so agitated. Their wealth was no joke, and even Su Feng began to wonder how many players they had robbed. The bounty tag of them must have decreased, and they were clever enough to wait a while until their status was clear before entering the town. Otherwise, they should have been detained immediately if they entered with a bounty tag. There was simply no way these players were able to obtain such vast wealth with their crooked ways and greedy behavior. Hence, Su Feng quickly determined their wealth was obtained from other players. As the NPC guard was about to ask for leave, Su Feng kindly gave him a silver coin as a tip. "Don't try to refuse it. This is my thanks for saving me from earlier," Su Feng said sternly, making it clear that he would not accept a refusal. The guard's initial surprise melted into a grateful smile. "Thank you, sir." He accepted the tip with a bow, then ordered the other guards to exit the hallway while bidding farewell to Su Feng. As the guards left, Zhao Kai turned to Su Feng, eyes wide with admiration. "You're too cool, Brother Feng. You earned all that without lifting a finger," he exclaimed, giving him a thumbs up. Su Feng chuckled, slipping the money and the items into his inventory. "It's all about knowing the right moves. But why tip the guard? We could have used that silver coin for more food," Zhao Kai asked, scratching his head in confusion. From his understanding of Su Feng, he was a through and through stingy person. To see him tipping someone, especially when it was an NPC, made him confused. Su Feng sighed, rubbing his temples. "Listen, don't underestimate the NPCs. They remember how you treat them. A small tip, now, could mean they'll save our skins later." He then leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "And keep that to yourself. There's no need to enlighten others about it." Had it been others, he would have concealed the information sternly. Though it didn't matter much, since Zhao Kai simply nodded his head, seemingly unbothered by the information once he learned his intention. "All right, shall we start heading to the Verdant Valley?" Zhao Kai laughed cheekily, quickly changing the topic. "Yeah, but first take this gun." Su Feng responded and handed him a gun. As Zhao Kai received the gun, he began to inspect its stats. Iron bolt rifle type, rifle rarity, uncommon green, level requirement, 5 attack power, 15 to 25 range, 35 meters accuracy, plus 5% durability, 100 out of 100 special ability. Piercing shot has a 10% chance to ignore 10% of the target's armor. Description: a sturdy and reliable rifle crafted from iron. Whoa, this gun is insane, but Feng, the level requirement. Zhao Kai exclaimed in joy, followed by a tinge of bitterness. The level requirement for equipping the gun was level 5, but he was nowhere close to it. Did you go stupid as well? Su Feng flicked on his forehead. "Where are we headed to now?" "The Verdant Valley," Zhao Kai answered. "And what's in the Verdant Valley? Monsters?" "Yes, monsters are there, so we can just level up while continuing on with the clues from the letter," Su Feng explained, feeling an urge to punch him in the face again. Such juicy monster experience points were naturally amazing, but with his debuff still active, he would gain peanuts. Nevertheless, it wasn't a bad idea to farm the monsters since it would be on their path anyway. Letting Zhao Kai gain some fighting experience and learn the combat mechanics of the divine world was beneficial. Not to mention, he could start leveling up faster to make up for the time he spent indulging himself in food. Anyway, now that the robbers have been apprehended and you got a new weapon, so what's your current level? He then proceeded to ask. "I'm just level 3, Feng." Zhao Kai smiled embarrassingly, clearly not realizing Su Feng himself was level 3 as well. After all, he believed Su Feng must have grinded a lot, especially when he had gotten a head start. Naturally, Su Feng wasn't going to divulge the fact that he had been hit hard by the system with a debuff due to his misdeeds. If he did divulge it, then Su Feng was positive Zhao Kai would definitely make fun of him and say how he deserved it. "Not bad. At level 3, you can actually start building your skill tree." Nodding his head, Su Feng decided to assist Zhao Kai with his character build. Although he wasn't experienced with this kind of abnormal play style, his knowledge was still helpful in the situation. Following his suggestion, Zhao Kai opened his skill trees that had 3 different branches: Marksman skill, Vanguard skill, and Tactical support skill. The marksman skill specialized in enhancing range combat abilities and accuracy, whereas the vanguard skill specialized in balancing ranged and melee combat, enhancing both offensive and defensive capabilities. Meanwhile, tactical support skills specialized more in crowd control and team support abilities. To summarize, the tactical support skill tree was more orientated for the tank playstyle with vanguard skill as the secondary priority. However, that was only for the usual gun knight playstyle and did not apply to Zhao Kai, given he had clearly refused to equip the shield. Since you want to equip a shield, then your priority skill tree is marksman, followed by vanguard. Su Feng instructed. First, get all the beginner skills in the marksman category, which is steady aim, rapid fire, and precision strike. Next, you'll get the fortified stance skill under the vanguard category. Got it. Zhao Kai saluted, acting as if he were a soldier listening to the commander. Su Feng sighed, his fingers itching to give Zhao Kai a good punch on the face again. Sometimes, I wonder if you're doing this on purpose, he muttered. Chapter 76. Verdant Valley. After assisting Zhao Kai in building his character regarding his abnormal playstyle, the two finally exited Oakwood Town. The town had much to offer to beginners, but Su Feng remained disinterested in them. Sure, there were occasionally some NPCs offering missions, with a minority of them giving out great rewards in return. However, those great rewards were not attractive to him, given his goal was set much higher. It was also because of this that he didn't even glance at the drop loot from the Inferno Tyrant. Those loots did not apply to him aside from maybe increasing some of his wealth if he were to sell them. Feng, are you sure we can traverse the Verdant Valley safely? Zhao Kai asked as they approached the perimeter. Shadowblade, didn't you cross this area here before my arrival? So what's with the sudden cold feet? Su Feng raised an eyebrow, perplexed by Zhao Kai's anxiety. Well, that's because I didn't care much about my character. If I die, then so be it, but you're different. I doubt you would want to die a pointless death. Zhao Kai confessed, revealing his genuine concern for Su Feng. Previously, he was all alone and only cared about enjoying the delicacy of the food that the divine world had to offer. Thus, he truly couldn't be bothered about being ambushed or killed by some players. Meanwhile, Su Feng suddenly chuckled after hearing Zhao Kai was concerned about him. What made you think I'm very feeble and easy to be killed? He subsequently asked, clearly not expecting Zhao Kai to mistake him for a flower vase. You still had to ask? Zhao Kai scoffed. I saw you healing yourself after taking a direct hit from the ambushers, which means you're a cleric. A cleric's health point is abysmally low and weak in defense as well. Anyone could easily PK you. Truly, one should not underestimate Zhao Kai despite his childish and seemingly foolish behavior. Never once did he expect a slight revelation of his ability would be picked up by him, and even enable him to deduce his class. Since you know I'm a cleric with such subtle clues, then let me guess. You have been intentionally frustrating me on purpose as revenge for the punch, right? Su Feng's glasses glinted as he stared at Zhao Kai. Startled, Zhao Kai shuddered for a brief moment as he quickly regained his composure. Alas, that tiny little bit of movement was unable to hide from Su Feng. His sharp eyes caught the brief moment of unease. Very good, Shadowblade. He smiled menacingly. Come over here and let this brother give you a pat. Haha, no need. We should focus on our objective, Brother Feng. Frightened, Zhao Kai hurriedly retreated and increased the distance between them. Realizing the situation was amiss, Zhao Kai turned on the turbo and he started dashing away. I'm sorry, he echoed as he ran further and further away. Get back over here, Shadowblade. Su Feng roared, losing his composure as he began to chase after Zhao Kai. The cat-and-mouse chase continued for a while before Su Feng ultimately had to stop, cursing at his stats for being inferior to Zhao Kai. TSK, just wait till I upgrade more my agility. They'll see if you can escape faster next time. He clicked his tongue and gave up his revenge temporarily. It was not bad to have fun in a while, but now that they could be said to have entered the danger zone, they needed to stop fooling around. The Verdant Valley was a deceptive expanse of dense greenery, where thick underbrush and towering trees created a canopy that blocked out much of the sunlight. The terrain was uneven, with sudden drops and hidden ravines that made traversal treacherous. A sluggish, murky river snaked through the valley, its dark waters hinting at unseen dangers lurking beneath. Eerie fog often rolled in unannounced, obscuring vision and amplifying the unsettling silence. They were only occasionally broken by distant, unidentifiable sounds, most likely from the monsters lurking in the area. The monsters here are around levels 5 to 7, so we're dead meat if we encounter a group of monsters, especially when we're near the fog. Su Feng warned solemnly. Rest assured, Feng, previously I memorized a route I took, and these places don't have many monsters. Zhao Kai revealed, sharing his map which had a ton of indications and key points highlighted. Unlike most maps in a game where they are fixed, players themselves could modify the map at will, highlighting key terrains. However, such features were only discovered later on by players and the usefulness of adding their own notes on the map. Who would have thought Zhao Kai himself was already utilizing the feature to his benefit? You are really playing a pig to eat a tiger, Su Feng exclaimed, stating that he was acting like a fool to deceive others into lowering their guards against him. Others might think he was just a foolish foodie who only had food in his mind, but secretly, he was planning and plotting all of this. Zhao Kai shrugged his shoulders and defended his actions. If I don't play a pig, then I probably won't live long. Those who show off or reveal too much tend to die early. Nodding his head in agreement, Su Feng no longer bothered to continue with the topic as he inspected the map done by him. The map was quite detailed, and having seen the symbols of the letter that Zhao Kai obtained, he now has a somewhat idea of where the hidden Willowbrook village was located. This area of the map that you marked is most likely the place we need to go to, Su Feng said, pointing at the highest concentration of eerie fog. It was marked as dangerous on Zhao Kai's map. Ugh, I knew this letter was bad news. Zhao Kai scratched his head, clearly annoyed that the most dangerous area was most likely their destination. Stop acting so surprised when you clearly explore everywhere aside from this. Su Feng rolled his eyes as he exposed him on the spot. Chapter 77. Eerie fog aside from exploring the area, Zhao Kai also labeled everything he had witnessed and the dangers of the area. The meticulous work done somehow made Su Feng suspicious of something, and as he pondered deeply, piecing the puzzles together, he finally understood one thing. Shadowblade, did you drop a few levels because you died too many times for marking these? Su Feng asked coolly. Sure enough, redness rose from his face, clearly indicating that he had indeed died too many times, which resulted in his drop of level. Damn, so he was actually higher level than me, but lost it because of dying. Su Feng cursed silently, having realized the debuff was truly taking a toll on him. How many more secrets are you concealing from me? He subsequently asked, clearly wanting to know just how far he had advanced. Well, not as much as you, that's for sure. Zhao Kai responded cheekily. At the very least, you can expect me to know my way and how to fight. These monsters are truly too realistic and unpredictable. He added, having been reminded of his early struggle of fighting the monsters. They're not that unpredictable once you figure out their pattern. Su Feng explained. I've tried to, but it's hard to comprehend their patterns. Zhao Kai frustratingly said. Obviously, it's not going to be easy to predict them. Otherwise, everyone would have become a pro. It takes time and experience to comprehend their patterns. TSK, you speak as if you have a lot of experience. Didn't you just play a few hours earlier than me? Do you want me to smack you again? Huh, what'd I just say? Ugh, I can't remember. This amnesia of mine is getting worse. Zhao Kai suddenly clenched his head, feigning a painful expression. Unamused, Su Feng fixed his glasses and ignored his crappy acting as he began to wonder how to proceed forward. The eerie fog will obstruct our vision, and I'm afraid Kai might not be able to aim properly. The status ailment is probably the challenging part and not the monsters. He knitted his brows, feeling the pressure. Unlike the Scorched Caverns, he was not overly familiar with the Verdant Valley. Thus, he needed to be cautious and tread every move carefully. Meanwhile, Zhao Kai suddenly stood next to Su Feng and wrapped his arm around his shoulder, pulling him somewhat closer. Stop thinking so much, Feng. The worst thing that could happen to us is death. It's just dying, and I've already experienced it. What happened to you worrying about my safety earlier? Su Feng twitched his lip. TSK, your attitude earlier clearly told me not to worry about you. Zhao Kai rolled his eyes. We're brothers anyway. What's there to be afraid of a mere fog? Fine, but make sure to listen to me if I ever make a command. Su Feng said, albeit with some grumble as he pushed his arm aside. Sometime later, the two entered the eerie fog, and soon a system prompt appeared, warning them of the status ailment. System, you have been exposed to the eerie fog. Your strength and defense are reduced by 12%. As expected, status ailment as usual. Though it didn't even bother mentioning how our vision is now limited. Su Feng smiled bitterly at the system prompt. As helpful as the warnings were, the system prompt doesn't always list out everything for the players. After all, this was not some nanny or babysitting game. Our vision might be affected, but our senses remain. Zhao Kai remained optimistic and exclaimed. He was not a bit afraid of having his vision limited. It wasn't like he became blind or anything. It was just going to be a bit hard to navigate and detect danger from afar. I suppose it's not that bad. Nodding his head, Su Feng proceeded to buff Zhao Kai early on. His mana was full at the moment anyway, so using his spells now and letting it regenerate slowly while advancing forward was more probable. By buffing him constantly, Su Feng won't need to worry about not being able to react in time to assist Zhao Kai. Our map might be blurred, but we can still make our own mark. Su Feng advised, glancing at his map. Upon entering the fog, the original clear map was covered in fog, preventing the players from being able to take advantage of the map feature to navigate around. Nevertheless, that didn't mean there was no loophole to such implementation. Although most of the path was blurred by the fog, they were still able to plant their footsteps. By doing so, they could see their previous footsteps and prevent themselves from walking in a circle. They'll leave those tedious tasks to you, Feng. Zhao Kai laughed heartily. They'll just remain a bit forward to tank for you in case of any danger. He added, holding his gun with a vigilant expression. Despite knowing he was being handed the tedious work, Su Feng didn't mind as he couldn't trust Zhao Kai in his attention to detail. He would rather make his own navigation mark than let others do it. As they advanced forward through the fog, random noises started to echo from all directions. The unsettling ambience intensified with each step. Eerie howling pierced the silence, as if distant wolves were mourning under a pale moon. The sporadic dripping of water resonated like the tapping of ghostly fingers on ancient stone. Occasionally, a creaking sound emerged from the sides, reminiscent of old, wooden doors slowly opening to reveal unseen horrors. Damn, is this a horror game or what? What's with all these random sounds constantly? Zhao Kai snorted, waving his unoccupied hand around to brush aside some of the fog. Luckily, his courage was commendable and no goosebumps were appearing. Don't be distracted, Kai. Su Feng warned sternly, his instincts practically screeching at him that they were being locked on already. Get ready to shoot when I tell you the chords. He narrowed his eyes and instructed. Chapter 78. Battle in the Fog. You've sensed something? Zhao Kai asked, his expression turning solemn, devoid of his previous carefreeness. His hand held tightly on the gun, with his finger ready to pull the trigger whenever. Shoo! Su Feng placed his pointy finger on his mouth, warning him to keep quiet. Nodding his head, Zhao Kai stepped a little back and equipped a shield. This Kai. Speechless, Su Feng nearly laughed at his actions. It was quite obvious that Zhao Kai was not happy with the shield, but he still equipped it anyway. His thought process? It was most definitely his worries for Su Feng on being a cleric that made him react in such a manner. With the shield equipped, it boosted his confidence in defending the enemy from killing him. After all, the accuracy of his attack was definitely lowered with the limited vision, even if the system didn't warn them about it. Why did Feng even choose such a weak class anyway? Zhao Kai pondered inwardly, holding the shield in a somewhat awkward manner with his left hand. His unfamiliarity with the shield made it clear that he never loved to equip the shield. As the atmosphere turned to pin-drop silence, Zhao Kai was now sure that they were being targeted as well. Previously, there were still some creepy sounds, but now they seemed to have vanished without a trace. Unequipped the shield, Kai. Su Feng stepped forward and whispered, "You're not familiar with the shield, and your build is not for it anyway. No need to worry about me, and focus on yourself and aim." "Are you sure?" Zhao Kai asked in an uncertain tone, clearly still worried for his safety. "Yes, I'm sure. If you equip something you're not used to, then we'll only be in more danger. Just trust me." "All right then." With that said, Zhao Kai stashed his shield away in the inventory. Just right at this moment, Su Feng turned 30 degrees to the right and pointed, "Shoot there now. Say no more." Zhao Kai quickly angled his gun in the direction and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang! The bullet trajectory landed on something, causing a whining howl to echo among the fog. "Shadow wolves, huh?" Su Feng muttered, having distinguished the sound of the howling. The shadow wolves were creatures of nightmare, their forms almost indistinguishable from the dense fog that cloaked the verdant valley. They had sleek, muscular bodies covered in fur as black as midnight, with patches of dark gray that helped them blend seamlessly into their surroundings. Their eyes glowed with an eerie, luminescent yellow, piercing through the mist like beacons of dread. Long, sharp claws clicked softly against the ground as they moved with predatory grace, their movements so silent that they seemed to melt into the shadows. With Zhao Kai successfully landing an attack on one of them, shadow wolves started to emerge amidst the fog. Their elongated snouts revealed rows of razor-sharp teeth when they snarled, and their breath hung in the cold air like wisps of smoke. "Geez, they're shadow wolves? You might as well call them cowardly wolves." Zhao Kai gritted his teeth, "Coming at us with a pack. Don't they know any honor? Fight me 1 versus 1, he exclaimed coldly, pointing his gun at the wolves. There were a total of 4 shadow wolves, including the one that he had shot initially. However, just one bullet was barely able to do much. This was still a game after all, and his attack power was pitifully low. Nice shot, but it didn't even graze the wolf, much less damage it. Su Feng commented, "Are you on my side or the wolf's side?" Disbelief filled Zhao Kai's eyes when he found Su Feng still had the leisure time to tease him. The person who should be the most afraid now was Su Feng. Yet not only was he not afraid, he was even making comments as if he were a commentator. "Naturally, I'm on your side, but you seriously need to learn how to fight." Su Feng shook his head and said, "Aim at their critical flesh to double the damage instead of just shooting randomly." Their critical flesh? The neck, heart, eyes, joints, and the lower abdomen are their weaknesses. If you aim your gun there, the damage will be multiplied. Oh, so it's just like real-life hunting wolves. Zhao Kai's mouth was wide open, seemingly enlightened by the information. Meanwhile, Su Feng face-bombed at his reaction. Something like this should have been common sense. Alas, there was no time to converse further when the shadow wolves started to pounce on them. Luckily, Su Feng already anticipated their movement and narrowly avoided their razor-sharp claws from slashing him. As for Zhao Kai, he was courageous as he directly clashed with one of the shadow wolves, causing his health point to drop by 10%. However, it wasn't because he went numb and foolish. Instead, he purposely clashed with one of them to ensure a close distance. You think you're so cool because you blend in with the fog, right? Now let's see how well you can see. He sneered coldly, raising his gun and firing a precise shot at the eye of the shadow wolf. The shot rang out with a deafening crack, piercing the dense fog and finding its mark with deadly accuracy. The shadow wolf let out a pained howl, a sound that reverberated through the fog-laden terrain. Its movements became erratic, the once stealthy predator now blinded and vulnerable. "Great shot," Su Feng complimented, taking advantage of its injured state, and launched his own spell, Sacred Fire. The Sacred Fire was launched precisely to target its injured eye, causing the shadow wolf to whine and whimper in agony. Their actions were instantly deemed despicable by the other 3 shadow wolves. Their eyes glared menacingly at Zhao Kai and Su Feng. "Oh, you're mad?" Zhao Kai scoffed at their reaction. "Well, I'm furious as well," he added, glaring menacingly in response as well. mimicking the wolf's action. Be furious later, Kai. Come and shoot this injured wolf dead first. Su Feng shouted, telling him to focus on the priority. Chapter 79. Shadow Wolves. Having heard Su Feng's despicable command, Zhao Kai was more than ready to oblige it. Retreating to Su Feng's side, Zhao Kai glanced at the struggling Shadow Wolf as he mercilessly fired multiple rounds of bullets. Rapid fire and precision strikes were used simultaneously as Zhao Kai targeted all the critical flesh mentioned by Su Feng. However, the other three Shadow Wolves aren't just going to sit still and watch. As Zhao Kai attempted to kill the injured one, they took advantage of his distraction to target Su Feng. Ugh, why am I the one pulling the aggro? Su Feng smiled bitterly as he realized he had become the target. Just because he was a cleric and the weakest among the two, they believed he was an easy target. Talk about being discriminated against. He fixed his glasses and commented, "Focus on killing the wolf, Kai. Don't worry about me." After saying that, Su Feng started running away. As much as he wanted to retaliate and give the Shadow Wolves a piece of his mind, the current him was simply too weak with next to little offensive spells. Just wait till the damn debuff goes away and I mass level up. Su Feng vowed inwardly, running all over the place in a zigzag line. Running away in a straight line was literally the worst decision anyone could make. A straight line was the shortest distance in contrast to a zigzag line that forced the enemy to change their trajectory, causing their speed to decrease. Alas, Su Feng's agility could hardly be compared to the agility of the Shadow Wolves. Within a few seconds, he was caught by them and was forced to buff himself to minimize the damage. Their claws were sharp and dealt a heavy blow to him, who had a low defense. As his health points decreased by 25%, the Shadow Wolves howled in excitement. Idiots wolves! Su Feng rolled his eyes as he quickly healed himself, regaining almost half of the lost health points. Infuriated by their thwarted attack, the Shadow Wolves grew even more aggressive. They howled and snarled, their fury palpable in the cold, foggy air. Their eyes glowed with a menacing light, and they moved with increased ferocity, their coordination becoming tighter as they prepared for another assault. However, Su Feng remained calm as he patiently waited for them to pounce on him. He might have been forced to buff himself temporarily to minimize the damage of their attack earlier, but that didn't mean he was defenseless. He proudly took the attack, knowing the damage it would cause in return for an opportunity. These Shadow Wolves were clever and instantly knew who was the main threat, who wouldn't take out the healer as soon as possible and allow them to live. After all, a healer could constantly provide assistance in the background, making it difficult for the enemy to kill anyone. Come at me. Su Feng smirked as he raised his left hand and extended his fingers, then beckoned the wolves with a sharp, deliberate motion. His hand moved fluidly, fingers curling toward his palm in a taunting gesture. The wolves might not comprehend his words, but the actions displayed by him were definitely enough for the wolves to comprehend. This kind of taunting ability was a universal language, and the Shadow Wolves were provoked by Su Feng's actions. With a loud snarl, the wolves dug their paws fiercely into the ground and, with a powerful push, sprang towards Su Feng with incredible speed. As the distance between them closed further, their eyes glowed red with a malevolent glint. Their sharp, glistening fangs dripped with saliva, and their muscular bodies, covered in coarse, bristling fur, exuded a menacing aura. Just when they were about to land a frightening attack, Su Feng suddenly curled his lips upward. "You love staring so much, then stare at this." He smiled coldly and cast Blinding Strike. Given their close proximity and the Shadow Wolves' miscalculation of Su Feng's capability, the Blinding Strike hit them right in the eyes, blinding them instantly. The wolves howled in pain and confusion, their aggressive momentum halted by the searing light. Taking advantage of the situation, Su Feng swiftly shouted to Zhao Kai, "Kai, quickly come here and use rapid fire on them." The timing was impeccable as Zhao Kai had just finished killing the injured Shadow Wolf and heard Su Feng shout. Within a few seconds, Zhao Kai regrouped with Su Feng, but there was no chattering among them. Instead, Zhao Kai quickly fired a rapid succession of bullets at the wolves who were still struggling from the blindness effect. Critical strikes were constantly triggered by how easy and vulnerable the current wolves were. Time slowly passed by, and the ambush of the shadow wolves was officially resolved, with Zhao Kai gaining a hefty amount of experience points. Sweet, if I just kill a few more of these dumb wolves, then he'll level up back to my prime. Zhao Kai cheered enthusiastically. Meanwhile, Su Feng was gloomy, looking as if the world had befallen him. The experience points from the Shadow Wolves were indeed fantastic, but it was just a shame that he only got 1% of them. This debuff is really starting to get on my nerves. As much as Su Feng wanted to compose himself, it still hurt a lot when all those delicious experience points slipped right by him. Stop cheering so loudly and store the wolves in our inventory. Their flesh and body could be sold to NPCs for money. Su Feng scolded him, clearly not being jealous of Zhao Kai. Right away, Zhao Kai responded cheerfully as he remained ignorant of the debuff ailment that Su Feng was having. Additionally, their teamwork and cooperation could not be said to be ideal, but at the very least, they now had a somewhat understanding of each other's playstyle. Anyway, let's proceed forward and remember to remain cautious. These shadow wolves that we encountered are merely the scouts. We might encounter more devious and shrewd monsters as we advance. Su Feng warned sternly, ensuring that Zhao Kai wouldn't become complacent about their earlier success. Chapter 80. Level up with Su Feng's stern warning. Zhao Kai no longer acted with excitement as he focused up. Although he didn't really care much about the divine world, Zhao Kai was willing to listen to assist Su Feng. After all, it became quite clear to him that Su Feng's attitude and behavior toward the divine world were serious. His mannerisms, demeanor, and strategic plays made him realize just how much research he had done. Sigh, I'm being infected by Feng now. Why am I overthinking so much? Zhao Kai shook his head, hoping to clear his mindset. Leave the thinking part to Su Feng, while he will be the one to do the most killing. Who told him to be the only good damage dealer among them? Approximately how much percentage are you away from leveling up to 4, Kai? Su Feng suddenly asked. About 30 to 40%. How far were you earlier? Around 60 to 70%. Upon realizing that the 4 Shadow Wolves were able to boost his experience points by 30%, Su Feng wanted to cry. Life was truly unfair. Or maybe it was truly fair, given Su Feng's misdeed had brought him a huge advantage over others. Of course, Su Feng would never admit his wrongdoing. The herbs in the Miracle Herb Garden were going to be wasted by the NPCs anyway. By kindly taking the herbs away from them, Su Feng was able to assist and help people. Yet instead of being repaid by kindness with his kindness, he was repaid with punishment. The system had truly done injustice to him. Since the experience points are nice, let's grind a bit in the fog before we look for the location. Su Feng suggested. Are you fine with that, Feng? Zhao Kai glanced at him skeptically. We don't need to grind for monsters if you're busy with things. Worry about yourself more. I'm experienced while you're not. Su Feng rolled his eyes in response, baffled by his constant concern. Sure, time was ticking down for him, but he wasn't a bit worried. What was important in the moment was to get Zhao Kai to level up and obtain new skills. After all, he wouldn't have much free time in the near future to help Zhao Kai gain combat experience and learn the fundamentals of the divine world. Fine, but I don't want to take too much of your time. Zhao Kai scratched his head, having understood Su Feng's intention. He was no fool and knew Su Feng was trying to educate him regarding the game. It was just that he didn't want to delay his tasks. Had he known beforehand that he would distract Su Feng, then he would have waited till later on before informing him about joining the game. Alas, it was a little too late, and it would be rude of him to reject his goodwill. Then let's proceed toward this path. Su Feng pointed in a direction and said, having encountered the Shadow Wolves and adapting to the eerie fog, he could somewhat infer the location of the wolves' camp. Although it wasn't going to be completely accurate, it should be adequate enough for them to encounter more monsters on the way to farm. With that goal in mind, the two spent the next few hours grinding for monsters and occasionally almost dying in the process. There were numerous times that Zhao Kai got caught in a pincer and nearly died. His movements were still rigid and clumsy at times, resulting in his predicament. Luckily, Su Feng's perception as a cleric was amazing and always ensured Zhao Kai's health did not fall below 10%. Despite Zhao Kai's seeming enthusiasm and motivation, his stamina was starting to take a toll on him. Ha! I can barely move my fingers to pull the trigger, Feng. Zhao Kai panted heavily. Sweat started dripping on his forehead as his stamina dropped abysmally low. The food buff from the redwood inn had long expired with how much time they had spent grinding. Not to mention, his stamina recovery wasn't enough to restore his constant actions. How are you still fine, Feng? Zhao Kai sat on the ground as he glanced at Su Feng, realizing the latter was still fine. He was dumbfounded at how Su Feng could still move around and barely had any sweat. I don't make any unnecessary movements. Su Feng flatly responded. You kept running around and showing off, so your stamina decreased tremendously. Be more practical next time. Knitting his brows, Zhao Kai seemed to be pondering his advice, but the next moment he shrugged his shoulders. Nah, what's the point of playing a game if not a show-off? He laughed heartily. Right after laughing, he finally slumped to the ground. I need a break, he gasped, wiping sweat from his brow. Afterward, he retrieved the food that was bought from the redwood inn earlier. With some utensils, he started making some slurping and munching sounds right in the open. You are unbelievable. Su Feng face-palmed, feeling helpless at Zhao Kai's nonchalant attitude. Nevertheless, he didn't reprimand him, given Zhao Kai had managed to level up once and almost reach level 5. Throughout the hours of grinding, Zhao Kai rarely made any mistakes. When he did make the mistake, he was called out and instructed by Su Feng on how to correct them, and he was able to fix them shortly after. Seeing how blissfully Zhao Kai was enjoying his food, Su Feng decided to go on the game forum to check up on the latest news. Upon opening it, he was instantly attracted by a post with many discussions, a post by One Man Media. An exclusive interview with the Silver Wind Guild leader, General Wind? Su Feng was stunned for a brief moment. Then he came to realize something. These two were in a cahoot from the start. Su Feng exclaimed inwardly. It was no wonder why One Man Media seemed to know much more than the rest, and was able to ask good questions to bring the focus of attention to everyone else. No, maybe it wasn't a real collaboration, but a temporary one. He murmured, opening his private message list and clicking on One Man Media.